very, very important member of the CSK squad from the initial years. Um, I think a lot of what CSK grew to become, he's one of the reasons for that. You know, not just his charisma, but a lot of the power, the strength, that kind of an aura that he brought contributed a lot to what CSK grew on to be. So it is, of course, 2 o'clock, which is when he's supposed to join in. So I'm going to quickly check if he's on. And if so, then I will just add him in. Okay, he isn't on yet. So we'll just wait for him to come on to this live before we continue. So obviously ask a lot of your questions here. We will make sure that they are answered. I'm sure you'll have a lot of things in mind. There were a lot of moments that you probably just heard of and didn't hear from him personally. So a lot of those things would be nice to talk about. So if you have any questions, do ask. Otherwise, how's it been? I hope all of you are safe and all of you have been taking care of yourselves and taking care of everyone around you. So that's very important as well during this time. He is. I'm going to check again if he's on. No, not yet. Um, all right. So we will. Okay, he's here. Is it? Yes, he's on. Awesome. Let's accept this and then we can get things rolling.
Hey, Roy. Hey, how you going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's night time.
12:30.
It's night time here. It's gone dark. So, well,
Oops.
I got my favourite nightgown on, Mr. Clever, and the PJs, cat in the hat. Ah, phew,
Well,
what a
perfect. We were
day.
talking about a casual chat, and this is as casual as can be. Love it.
Yeah. So
Been
I'm
enjoying a
just.
lot of your. I mean, we keep saying this, Matt. You know, during times like this, it's obviously easier to be a little, you know, hold up and be a little upset, be a little sad about it. But I love what you've been doing. You've been trying to get everyone together. You've kind
Yeah.
of started a lot of things as well, especially through social media, which is the way to kind of connect people. Love it. Been enjoying that a lot, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. Like, for me, during these times, you do get rather nostalgic, because there's not really a lot of awesome sort of new memories that you can create, especially within cricket, because there's nothing I can't broadcast, like, I can't watch live matches, I can't even get online and see, what's happening in terms of just live sport. It's just not there. So it's unreal to look back, and I suppose and I've been talking to a lot of people as well, right across the world. Everyone feels really similar around the fact that they just haven't really sort of slowed down to take on board what's happened, after the last 2 decades of, just amazing cricket. I mean, cricket's kind of gone, I think, to the next level in so many ways. When you look at T20 performances, the average scores are huge and the expectations are high. The expectations in terms of delivering fielding efforts and performance or execution of Yorkers, just a whole bunch of things. It's just next level cricket. And so you're that busy sort of, as a former player, you're that busy sort of trying to just, I guess, portray to people just how special the modern cricketer is. But you kind of didn't have time to look back at your era because the game just keeps moving on. Life just keeps rolling on. So, yeah, for me, I've just wanted to stop. I wanted to ask a bunch of mates, from Chennai, and right across the IPL, and you would have seen those beautiful little IPL moments that were created by the boys. Just loving the fact that they could just get back into that space where that was my favourite memory. I did something similar with the Ashes as well, so it
Yes.
was so cool to hear. And I'm really pleased now with where it's gone. It's gone to the really old boys, like the Jeff Thompsons and the Alan Lambs and the
Yeah.
guys that don't necessarily get a great voice on television, but they just got these great stories because it wasn't so serious. It wasn't the era of protection, and no one had phones, so everyone were great storytellers, which was just brilliant. But then, away from cricket, just at home, you know that I've always, loved to grow my own food, produce meals from what we've cooked. I love, and the kids, the whole family, we just love animals, so we've got black cockatoos, white cockatoos, we've got sheep, we've got pigs, we've got geese, we've got a menagerie of animals. And they all add, such awesome, value to our life.
That's what I was going to get at, Matt. How have you, of course, one of your teammates in some sense, former teammates in some sense, Russ, of course, just saying hi. He's just come on. You're one of your neighbors in some sense. But I want to ask you about this, Matt. The fact that there's a bit of an ecosystem as well that you're in. You've got people, you've got animals, of course, who you're very close to. You've got a garden. You do everything from scratch. A lot of that kind of helps you gain a bit of balance these times.
Yeah, look, I suppose what we never do is take for granted skill sets. So to be able to, for example, make a curry from scratch is something that, it's not an original IP. Someone created that, and I learnt that. So, it was a great blessing from, the hundreds of kitchens that I, became really dear friends with chefs throughout India. So it became a lot more about food rather than, necessarily about cricket. Now, of course, cricket's there because that was the connector. It was a conduit to conversation and open it up. But yeah, during these times, I really appreciate that because, I can go to pretty much any region of the world, whether it be Italy or England, South Africa and India and Sri Lanka and all these different places which we got the opportunity to play cricket. And I can start to create, a little recipe, from scratch around, what that has meant, that travel. And more than anything, it's the people behind those. So, when I look at, food from Chennai, for example, can you possibly get anything better than curd rice? Really, really spicy lime or mango pickle, and dal curry. I mean, to me, that's kind of like coming home to India. And so, if I can take a little bit of that, back here in Australia, and to my family who all love that food, that's a blessing. Um, it's such a joy to be able to create that.
Rather, one of your Aussie mates, David Warner's just popped in. He's, of course, saying it's too spicy for him.
David Warner, I've been loving your TikToks, brother. How good are they?
I swear, they're
He's
amazing.
on,
And he
isn't he?
gets this
He's
whole.
on. I'll be tuning into
He's
his
on
masterclass
fire.
tomorrow as well.
Yeah, yeah, I
Thinking of
saw that.
someone like, thinking of Davey, he's one of the individuals that I really just love in the game. He's just such a brilliant personality of the game. He's taken power hitting, to the absolute next level. Like when you look at his performances through the IPL, it's just been phenomenal. And when even the last time when he got the orange cap, he got it in
Yes.
about half the number of games that everyone else did because that was the World Cup year. So to me, his sort of personality is exactly why I want to watch the game of cricket, the modern game of cricket. Powerful, explosive, committed, passionate. I think him and Virat are just two of the individuals where you just go, if they're playing, you want to be watching it.
Yeah. He's just saying he's going to quote you in his masterclass. Big respect. It's nice.
See,
It's just nice, man.
Murali Karthik's on there as well. Hey, Murali.
Oh yeah. So I had a chat with him some days ago, and he had mentioned something very very sweet, which I wanted to actually bring it up to you. He said, without asking, you've given him one of the jerseys of the record match that you were involved in.
Yeah,
Tell us about this, man.
it was a 380 jersey
Yeah.
that it was a really special piece. I mean, Murali and I had a really actually most bowlers, ironically, considering that there's this great tension. It's melodramatic in many ways, but batters often befriend bowlers the most because there's just so much mutual respect, and I don't think that there can be anyone that's bowled a better delivery out of the fingers than Murali. He's such a beautiful arts and craftsman of spin bowling, and it's really hard. I mean, you only have to look at the way that modern day players treat spin now. It's just It's awful. But the best survive. And, you know, Murali was one of those, and he got me out a number of times, and I'm sure if he was bowling me today, he'd get me out all the time. But he was certainly sort of in the top 5 spinners, you know, that I was involved in. I mean, I heard some of the stories around Murali, and the boys are talking about favourite stories. I got one around Murali and Mr. Cricket, our champion from CSK, Mike Hussey. I was sitting in a flight. We were somewhere on inbound to Africa. So we took off, and this conversation was deep. I was in the middle, so it was like, you know, 50 A, B, and C. So I'm sitting in the middle. A and B is Mr. Cricket and Mr. Cricket, and they were having a cricket off. So after about an hour, I just thought, oh, man, I love the game, but I mean, I just wanted to paint the back of my eyelids a different colour other than cricket bats and balls. So I fall asleep, and about, I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe more later, I kind of wake up again and go like, oh, wow. Murali is still talking. I look over at Mr. Cricket, Mike Hussey, he's asleep. So there's no doubt in my head that Murali not only talks as fast as anyone that I've ever heard on the planet, but he is the original Mr. Cricket. Sorry, Huss, you've been outranked. Only he can ball the great Mike Hussey.
You know, Huss mentioned the same thing when we had a chat with him as well. He said, I have to, I mean, he's the guy who knows everything. Murali knows everything about cricket, the A to Z of anything that is cricket. And he should ideally be.
That's
And
right,
time just
seriously.
went.
And he's
But
so
he also
candid. He's so candid as well, Rupert. Like,
yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but and maybe the story's been told before as well. But he came in. I think it might have been Freddie that played just an awful shot, and he comes in, and Murali says to him straight off, you know, you're fuming when you're batting. He goes, "Bad shot, no." The language was a little spicier than that, but you get the picture. I just
I'm
remember
sure, yeah.
Freddie. I thought Freddie is that big that he could just snap him like a toothpick, and he was so candid about it. And you hear the stories from all the Sri Lankan boys that, you know, Murali was the best batter on the planet, and he'd come in and give several pieces of advice. But as soon as the pads came on him, it wasn't that pretty, Murali. Mate, you're the greatest off spinner of all time, but it wasn't pretty with the bat, I'm afraid.
You know, speaking of Huss and Murali, there are a few stories that I wanted to actually bring to you. So when I was chatting with Huss, he said the first time that he even saw you, he remembers how it was so intimidating. But I've said the same thing to you, Matt. You know, before I got to know you, you have that aura and you are a very daunting personality, you know. But the fact that how would you react to something like that? You know, one of like Huss saying something like that, but then he's like, but he's just so friendly, so warm, so amazing. How would you react
Yeah.
now?
Oh, look, Huss was a classic because the Mike Hussey that kind of became the Mike Hussey, as we all know, his starts were just very humble for WA, and there's this great rivalry between WA and Queensland. In some ways, we kind of like even out the chips on each other's shoulders. You know, the New South Wales and Queensland, you know, there's an awesome rivalry there, but the sort of controlling interest of Australian politics in cricket is Victoria and New South Wales. So when Huss came, there was this tremendous rivalry, and I'll never forget it because he was one of the sort of favourite players. You know, like he was part of the cricket academy, so he went through the sort of usual sort of process, and he got met by myself and Andrew Simons that were just hard nosed. You know, we'd had 4 or 5 seasons together. We were a relentless cricket team, the Queensland team at that time as well, because we'd had, you know, 60 odd years of never winning anything. And Simo and I were winners. You know, like we didn't win at all costs, but we wanted to win games of cricket. So we all knew Huss's talent and ability, but we wanted to test him out under the fire. So yes, whatever Hussey said is actually 100% true. And this is one of the great things that I love playing with CSK, right? Because The moment that I came in the dressing room, all of my sins came back to me. So I had little Patif Patel, for example, who I can just remember. He was a 12th man, and he came onto the field against India, and he had this smile on his face
Me
when
massage
I got
channel.
out, and I just blasted him, just I was so angry, and it wasn't necessarily about punching him in the belly button at that stage. And he accounted word for word, Rupa. He accounted this story about how I was just insanely awful to him, and yet, you know, we just became really, great mates, and to this day, we are. But I heard everyone from every part of the world say, "Hey, Los did this and that." All my sins were coming back to haunt me.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that, but because Matt, the kind of spectrum that you've covered, and it's incredible. Because you know that India-Australia rivalry is far more intense than India-Pakistan now, and it has kind of grown over the years. And for an Indian fan to completely adore you and love you after all the intimidation and animosity is amazing, because I don't think any Aussie is loved as much as you are in Chennai. How has that happened for you personally?
Well, I suppose, looking right back to '95, I was involved in a spin bowling clinic, and Chennai was my first visit
Malaka
to
menti
India. Was
atan
Chennai. I arrived. I didn't have any former understanding of
Lobunia.
India, and then I just got swept up in the emotion of India. It's very it's very addictive because there's so many people. I mean, where I live, you have to walk some distance to get to the next person, either in the street or generally. And where I grew up, I was living 14 miles out of town, and there was maybe 5 or 6 houses on the way into town. So we're very isolated. So for a country boy of Australia to arrive in Chennai, we just had this. I just had this instant connect before I even got there, because I wasn't supposed to be on that tour, and I begged the chairman of selectors. I said, "Look, why have you not put me on this tour?" Because I felt in my heart, and I explained this at the time, that I was going to be the right personality to connect with India and the conditions. So pick me. So as it turned out, the next day, Greg Blewett, who was who I replaced, and it was sort of, at the time, he was such a successful player. It just happened. So it was almost like fate in many ways. And then I got to Chennai, and then I had Venkat, who was just a master of conversation around spin, and Bisham Baby, who just took me under his wing. And I didn't do a lot of batting, actually. I just did a lot of talking to them about strategy, of spin. And so I went away and sort of wrapped all of that knowledge up over sort of another 4 or 5 year window, to get to be a better player of spin. But I was just a better person for being in India. I was a more understanding person. I felt like I was connecting on a very personal level with the country. There was, of course, an amazing affection to cricket and cricketers, but I felt like I had to earn that trust and that respect as well. So I never took for granted the cultural differences. I never took for granted the privilege that I had with my taste buds, and the different regions of India, and exploring the communities, whether that be on religious or even tribal grounds in India. So for me, it was just one big exploration, and every step I was kind of like, yeah, it's almost like I'd been there before in another life, if that makes sense. There was a very deep sense of commitment and respect for the country. And when, of course, the principle of respect is that once you give respect, then respect comes back at you in abundance. And that's what I've really felt. In particular in Chennai, as you say, there's just so much passion and enjoyment for that inaugural Big Bash, inaugural IPL tournament. There was MS Dhoni, myself, and Suresh Raina, kind of in that three that were the seed starts of CSK. And there was, I suppose, from that three also, there was so many other great, like you've had most of them on the shows. Badri, such an incredible talent.
Yeah.
What a what a magnificent athlete that probably didn't experience the success that he could have. I think he was such a superb cricketer. And then the other Aussie, the Hussey layers, Watson layers, all this great sort of spirit that came from Australia, from that sort of core group of players, and core group of administrators as well that have been right there from the start. Kasi Sir, Srini. It's been a very cricket-led franchise, and cricket has been the winner, meaning that there hasn't been a lot of distractions. It's just been focused on the love of the game, the love of fan base in Chennai, and the support then was a mutual respect and trust. It's just been a magic journey. And it's very hard. I've admitted this on air as well, but it's very hard for me to be have no prejudice as a broadcaster when it comes to Chennai. I'm just hopelessly in love with the franchise and the people. And so I try my very best to be kind of neutral, but it really doesn't work that very well.
Yeah, because I've seen you as well, Matt, and you're always with the. Once a CSK boy, always a CSK boy. That's just a given. But would you also say that your love for food and cooking kind of took on another shape through Chennai? Would you say that kind of laid some sort of a turning point when it came to cooking for you?
Yeah, I think not just cooking, but love of ocean as well. It probably wasn't until I finished my IPL seasons that I really connected and had a bit more time as a broadcaster. Had a little bit more time to connect to some of the regional areas of Tamil Nadu as well. And you and I did, the start of the Tamil Nadu competition. It was just great to go to different places, Madurai, down south. But my heart connect really, was down with the Covalong Point community. I just find the people, just so beautiful, and Hey to Div and all the crew down there. They're doing great stuff around the ocean, which is my heart connect. Now, naturally, when it comes to the ocean, my heart connect then is, well, what do you eat from the ocean? So, days where I've been digging mussels with the boys and then going back into the kitchen down there and cooking food after I've had a surf and drank some coffee and just chilled out with mates, gone out to the schools down there and played a bit of cricket. I've just got so many great deep memories. It's because it's come over time as well. Like, it hasn't. You can't just go in and just create something. When you really add up the months and potentially even years that I've spent in India, it means that you develop, like, you go there first and then you develop a relationship and a friendship, and then it grows over time, and before you know it, you're sort of like family. So now it's not like I go to restaurants in India. It's very much I'm going home to a family that I've now known for maybe 15 or so years. I know the kids now. I've just got this great relationship with so many people across the country that I feel like, it's home away from home. And food,
Matt,
of course, is always there.
yeah. And we will kind of talk a bit more about the food in a bit, but a lot of questions coming in, so I want to just pop in a few here. Of course, there's one called Alone Rider. He asks, who's in the CSK team or the squad that you've been part of, or even now, current, before, who would you say is your brother from another mother?
Suresh Raina. Suresh and I we've had, I don't know, it was almost love at first sight with Suresh. I always felt that he had, really great connection to Chennai. As a Delhi boy, I just felt like he was always so welcoming. He's just a very sweet human being. He's got a great heart. He's a great father. He's happily married. His kids are just a centre of his life. And yet, his nickname Talent says it all as well. So, as a cricketer, I don't think there's been too many people that have hit a sweeter cricket ball than Suresh. But I just loved hanging out with Suresh. The seasons that we had, MS and I had rooms very close together, sometimes connecting, and our rooms were basically just every night were about just hanging out. Everyone would come to either of our rooms and just chill out. So, but Suresh is a short answer, yeah, for so many reasons.
Yeah, but a lot of people, of course, I wanted to, you kind of led me to the next question about MS. That's a very special bond for you as well, Matt. I mean, I keep asking a lot of players, it's easy to connect with the same language, the same region, the same
Mm.
country. And when you bond with someone who has none of this in common, it is special.
Mm.
Tell us
Yeah.
about your rapport with MS because we know that you both are really close.
Yeah, it's a really interesting perception, isn't it? Like what holds a relationship like MS and mine together? We live at opposite parts of the planet.
Yeah.
Um, we, as you said, we're culturally, very different. But I think in essence, the the glue in all relationships, solid relationships, are the fundamentals: loyalty, respect, honesty, integrity. These things, and I think more than anything of those within a cricket sense, is that commonness around work ethic and commitment to make other people better. So, I think good players have an insight for themselves, and they win matches. But great players make other players better, and then they go on to greatness as a team. And I think that we have that in common with MS for sure. He makes everyone around him better because of his humility, just his candidness. But he's also a guy that doesn't waste words. He's not someone that and I've got this relationship with Andrew Simons. My wife, she would often say, "Well, how'd you and Simo would go fishing? How'd you and Simo go?" He said, "Yeah, really good." She says, "What'd you talk about?" Not much. She said, "So you mean to tell you're out there for like 12 hours you didn't talk?" Yeah. Said, "Pass the bait and how you going, mate?" That's about it. The rest of the time we're busy fishing. But
Yeah.
that can be a kind of a blokey relationship, and I feel that with MS, you don't necessarily, and even now when I see him, you don't necessarily break into masses of conversation, but just
Yeah.
being next to MS or being next to Suresh and finding that space, that personal space where you've both really just got that level of stoke, and you're just happy to be there. That's what I feel about MS.
Nice. And I want to, at this point, I want to actually show a few images because we do want to relive some of those nice moments that you've been a part of, some things that you probably will laugh or probably have a story to tell as well about. So, I want to kind of relive a few of those with you, Matt. And this one I know
Yeah.
is very close to you. It's also part of a very amazing match that you guys were all part of. But this is something that you're extremely proud of.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment. Yeah. I mean, to meet His Holiness is something which, and look, we've had the privilege of meeting some extraordinary people. Nelson
Yeah.
Mandela. I don't know if you see behind me here. Oops, which way? That way.
I think the
There's a
one to your right. Oh, yeah, there on the left. Yeah.
yeah, there's a beautiful saying here as well. If you can read that, it says, "Action without vision is only passing time. Vision without action is merely daydreaming. But vision with action can change the world." So, someone like um, His Holiness Dalai Lama was just something so sacred and so special because again, just that respect and seeing the world through a completely different lens. And I
Yeah.
think more than anything, when you get up to a place like Dharamshala, it's such a unique place of India. Um,
Yeah.
that sort of eclectic mix of people from the Tibetan side, um, and have been persecuted, and to understand, just exactly that man is sort of leading his own culture and their survival. I mean, who could possibly say that apart from ancient tribes of the world, like our Australian Aboriginals as well, been around for 60,000 years, still existing. So there's an extraordinary depth of understanding and knowledge. And you talked about aura before. When you come up against greatness like that, there's something that you just go, whoa, this is really special, unique. And it was the same, when I met Nelson Mandela as well. They've achieved so much for humanity that it's not possible to not feel something, because there's been a great sacrifice. And the world is never that kind to people that want to go change it. So they're remarkable people. But yeah, the story behind that all is obviously MS and Suresh. I think Suresh got 40 odd, and
Yeah.
MS absolutely smashed right at the end. Kings 11 were just devastated.